At least at some point in your life, you have to go to a place and experience what it means to simply be free to live an African lifestyle.
Welcome to Pan-African Lifestyle, where we rep the motherland. We post content regularly and invite you to subscribe and share. If you're a pal, that's a Pan-African Lifestyler.
So I think that going to Africa is great. I think every black person should go at some point if you can. My thought about going to Africa, or all of us being in Africa, is, first, yes, we should all visit. I think that but then in terms of living there, some people would want to do it, some people may not. What I would say is that even if you don't go live in Africa or even go visit Africa, I think that what you want to avoid is believing that America is all that you deserve, all that you can get, that it's the best that's out there, that this is just the greatest country in the world and the only place you could be. That's where you fall into a trap, because we have a lot of African Americans who believe that America is the be all end all. This system, what happens is black people are, we have our self-esteem kind of beaten down, and we're fooled into believing that America is our only option. That Africa don't want us, that Africa is no good place to be, that you should have no connection, no root to Africa, and that's a great way to oppress people, because what they've done to us is they erased our history, where many of us don't know anything about who we were before we came, and all we have to hold on to is what exists in America. That's why you have black people, when they define black achievement, they will define it in terms of things like, so-and-so was the first black person to graduate from Harvard, or so-and-so was the first black doctor in America. Just, things like that, sort of the first black. And what's happened, the way that that leads to a natural imbalance. And what they're saying to you is that black progress means that you're rising up. You're chasing after this elusive thing called equality by comparing yourself. And that's a problem, because what happens then is you've allowed your oppressor to create a ceiling for your success. They know that as long as they never fully accept you, you will never have true equality, because that's what you've been led to believe. We don't aim for equality. We aim for other forms of achievement, new measuring sticks that will allow us to feel accomplished, even if we don't have the permission to consider that to be an accomplishment. I'm not a big fan of living off of borrowed power, because the person you're borrowing it from, as soon as they yank the rug out from under you, you have nothing. I think that we can educate our own kids. I'm a big fan of educating your own children. At the very least, if you send them to school every day, they should be going to school to learn systems, to learn how America thinks. But then when they come home, they're learning how to operate within those systems as a black person in this society. And I think that's that's probably the most important part of their education, because you have to have them. It's almost like being an undercover cop. You can't be so deep undercover that you become like the people that you're hanging around. You always have to remember who you are. So you pull them out. You say, okay, you went undercover. You're learning the system. You're learning how things work. Now let me tell you about how you can eventually overcome this system and determine your own strength in life.
One of the first things I thought about is, unfortunately, I realized that in my life, America is not going to change for me. When I look at century after century after century, when you realize how things have not changed, when you realize that for years people have been fighting to be celebrated and appreciated in the God-given diversity that He has created, is nevertheless, here we are, nearly half a millennium later, and we still have the same chant, I am a man. We are still fighting for dignity and humanity. And at one point, I realized that America is not going to change. For so many black Americans, we are literally killing ourselves to simply survive. The fact is this: when you look at the levels of stress in our communities, when you look at the level of health disparities in our community, when you look at the level of economic, social, and education disparities in our community, we are trying to navigate in a society where we are relegated to a constant position of being the other. That has an effect on our minds, it has an effect on our bodies, and when you look at the stats, we are some of the most stressed individuals that has a direct correlation with racism. So we are literally killing ourselves to survive in a place that, in my opinion, we were never really meant to live. We are desperately trying to navigate this system. And we get to the point to where we have a good job, we're making good money, we have some decent relationships, but we still haven't arrived. At what point, my brothers and sisters, do we move from the place of simply surviving to actually living? And my argument is that as a black person in America, for many of us, we are really not living. We are surviving. For many of us, we really don't know who we are. You realize that most of the things that we have been taught about our histories, our legacies, and our identities are Eurocentric constructs that are fabricated assumptions about who they think we are. And the areas that we really don't have clarity in is centered around our theology, our personal African identity, and just our place in the global world. This is probably one of the biggest reasons why I believe every black American needs to come to Africa, at least at one point in their lives. It is because if you are born and raised in America, you have no idea what it feels like to live life separate from racism. Many black people, we have no idea what it feels like to live outside of the construct of blackness. When I first came to Africa, it was literally the first time in my life that I felt like I embodied what King said. I envision a day that my children will be judged based off the content of their character, not the color of their skin. I'm telling you, I have never ever experienced the fulfillment of that living in the U.S. Many of you really don't know what that feels like. And you really don't know the damage that that has done to you until you step outside of that. It makes you start to restructure your whole identity of like, who am I, right? If being black is not the central core of who I am, then who am I really? And it really takes you on a pilgrimage to really have a deeper understanding of yourself as a God-created individual made in His image. And rewriting our children's legacy is not living in a construct where their identities is totally formed, really instilling a sense of identity so deeply rooted in who God has created them to be, and their ethnic identity, that when anything else comes along, it can be easily refuted as an untruth. But we don't know how to do that, because we never taught that. But now is an opportunity for us to do something different for our legacies. At least at some point in your life, you have to go to a place and experience what it means to simply be free to live in the image that God has created you in. Maybe it's time to resurrect your Afrocentric imagination, to recover the lost legacy that was stolen in an effort to reconnect those bridges of your true God-given identity.
Thanks for tuning into Pan-African Lifestyle. Share your thoughts in the comments section and follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Pan-African Lifestyle to be inspired. For awesome PAL merch, check out panafricanlifestyle.com/shop. Keep repping the motherland.
Pan-African Lifestyle.